When nosy neighbor Patricia sees her neighbor Michael's Wi-Fi name changed to FBI_surveillance_van_27, she quickly calls 911. The police come to check, but they end up finding something shocking. A secret crime happening right under Patricia's roof that nobody saw coming. Before watching full video, comment below from where you watching, also like and subscribe for more videos. It was a hot summer day on Maple Street. Patricia Wilkins, a 43-year-old woman who everyone called Pat, stood at her window with binoculars. She was watching her new neighbor, Michael Chen, carrying boxes into his house. "He's up to something," she said to herself. She didn't trust Michael. Patricia had named herself the neighborhood watchdog 3 years ago after her husband Harold left her for a younger woman. Now she was also the president of the neighborhood association, which made her feel important. Michael had moved in 2 months ago. Patricia didn't like him because he kept to himself and refused to join her neighborhood Facebook group. Michael wiped sweat from his face as he put down the last box of new internet equipment. His old internet router wasn't working well, and as someone who works on computers from home, he needed good internet. "Finally," he said, feeling relieved as he started to set up his new router. His old one had been causing problems during his work meetings. Across the street, Patricia was watching Michael connect wires to his computer. She had been checking her phone's Wi-Fi list for weeks and noticed Michael's network, called Chin_Home, would disappear and come back. Today when she checked her phone, she saw something that made her gasp. The Chin_Home network was gone. In its place was one called FBI_surveillance_van_27. "I knew it," Patricia said, her heart beating fast. "He's either pretending to be the FBI or..." Her mind thought of many bad things. What if he was a criminal? What if he was spying on everyone? Without thinking twice, Patricia grabbed her phone and called 911. 911, what's your emergency?" a calm voice answered. "This is Patricia Wilkins from 1478 Maple Street. I need to report something suspicious at my neighbor's house across the street," she said excitedly. "I think he might be pretending to be FBI or spying on us." "What makes you think that?" the 911 operator asked. "He's been acting strange for weeks, bringing in electronic stuff, and now his Wi-Fi network is named FBI_surveillance_van. That has to be against the law, right?" Patricia insisted. The operator paused. "Ma'am, changing a Wi-Fi name isn't usually against the law, but we'll send an officer to check." "Please hurry," Patricia said. "Who knows what he could be doing?" Officer James Rodriguez had been a police officer for 15 years. He had answered many strange calls, but this was one of the strangest. When he arrived at Maple Street, he saw a woman in a flower dress waiting excitedly on her porch. "Are you Patricia Wilkins?" he asked as he walked up to her. "Yes, officer, thank you for coming quickly," she replied, and immediately started telling him about her suspicious neighbor and his FBI-named Wi-Fi. Officer Rodriguez listened patiently, then explained, "Ma'am, naming your Wi-Fi network isn't a crime, even if it mentions the FBI. Many people use that name as a joke. But he could be doing something bad." Patricia insisted, speaking louder. "He's always on his computer, he gets packages almost every day, and he doesn't talk to anyone in the neighborhood. Don't you think that's suspicious?" Officer Rodriguez sighed. "Those things aren't suspicious either. But I'll talk to him to make you feel better." Patricia watched as Officer Rodriguez crossed the street and knocked on Michael's door. Michael was setting up his new router when he heard a knock. Opening the door to find a police officer was the last thing he expected. "Michael Chin?" Officer Rodriguez asked. "Yes," Michael replied, looking confused. "Is something wrong?" "I'm Officer Rodriguez. Your neighbor called worried about your Wi-Fi network name. Mind if I come in for a quick talk?" Michael couldn't believe it. "My Wi-Fi name? Are you serious?" "I'm afraid so," the officer replied with a small smile. "May I come in?" Michael stepped aside to let the officer in. "I just changed it today. It's a joke name, FBI_surveillance_van. I saw it online and thought it was funny." Officer Rodriguez nodded. "That's what I thought. Unfortunately, your neighbor took it very seriously." Michael sighed and looked out his window to see Patricia watching from across the street. "Ms. Wilkins, I guess? She's been watching my house since I moved in. Last week she left a note on my door warning me about having an Amazon package on my porch for more than 3 hours, saying it was against neighborhood rules." As they talked, Officer Rodriguez noticed Michael's computer setup. "That's a nice computer system. Do you play games?" "I'm a software engineer," Michael explained. "I work from home most days." Officer Rodriguez nodded, then hesitated. While I'm here, I should mention we've had reports of strange internet activity in this area. Nothing serious, just some possible internet theft and minor attacks on home networks. Have you noticed anything unusual? Michael shook his head. No, but that's actually why I'm upgrading my equipment today. My connection has been unreliable for weeks, dropping during meetings, getting slow at random times. I thought it was just my old router breaking down. Officer Rodriguez gave him a card. I used to work in our computer crime division before patrol. If you notice anything suspicious, call me directly. As Officer Rodriguez turned to leave, Michael had a thought. Officer, before you go, would you help me with a quick test? I have an idea about what might be happening with the networks around here. Patricia watched impatiently from her window as Officer Rodriguez spent much longer at Michael's house than she expected. When the officer finally came out, she rushed outside to meet him. Well, is he being arrested? She demanded. Officer Rodriguez shook his head. No, ma'am. As I thought, the Wi-Fi name was just a joke. Mr. Chin is a software engineer working from home. Patricia looked disappointed. But what about all the electronic equipment he's been bringing in? Computer stuff for his work, Officer Rodriguez explained. Ms. Wilkins, I need to be clear. Calling 911 for non-emergencies like this takes resources away from real emergencies. Patricia got angry. I was doing my duty as a citizen. This neighborhood was perfectly safe until he moved in. Officer Rodriguez gave her a serious look. Actually, Ms. Wilkins, Mr. Chin noticed some unusual activity on his internet that might need more investigation. Activity coming from this side of the street. Patricia's face got pale. What do you mean? It seems someone has been trying to access his network repeatedly over the past few weeks. We'll be looking into it. With that, Officer Rodriguez went back to his police car, leaving Patricia standing speechless on her lawn. The next morning, Michael was drinking coffee when his doorbell rang. Opening it, he found Officer Rodriguez with another officer. Mr. Chin, this is Detective Wallace from our computer crimes unit. May we come in? Michael nodded and let them in. Of course. Detective Wallace got right to the point. The test you ran yesterday with Officer Rodriguez showed some concerning patterns. We'd like to set up better monitoring equipment if you're willing to help. Michael agreed quickly. Anything I can do to help. I'm still having connection problems despite the new equipment. Detective Wallace nodded. Based on what we're seeing, someone nearby is running what appears to be an attack on your network, possibly others as well. It's subtle, but the patterns are clear. For the next hour, they set up special equipment to find the source of the attacks. As they worked, Michael glanced out his window at Patricia's house, where the curtains moved occasionally. Your neighbor seems very interested in what we're doing, Detective Wallace said. Michael nodded. She's been watching me since I moved in. Yesterday she called 911 because I changed my Wi-Fi name. Detective Wallace raised an eyebrow. Interesting. Patricia was very worried. Since Officer Rodriguez's visit the day before, she had seen police cars driving past her house often. She was sure Michael had somehow turned things around, making her look like the suspicious one. Her doorbell rang, making her jump. Through the peephole, she saw Officer Rodriguez and another man in regular clothes showing a badge. With shaking hands, she opened the door. Yes. Ms. Wilkins, I'm Detective Wallace from the Computer Crimes Unit. We'd like to ask you some questions about your internet usage. Patricia's mouth felt dry. My internet? What about it? We've detected unusual activity in this neighborhood, and we're checking with all residents. May we come in? Patricia hesitated but knew refusing would only make her look guilty. Of course, she said, forcing a smile. Detective Wallace didn't waste time. Do you share your Wi-Fi password with anyone? No, absolutely not, she replied, offended by the question. And you live alone? Yes, since my divorce 3 years ago. Detective Wallace nodded, looking around the clean living room. I notice you have several smart home devices. Who set those up for you? Patricia shifted uncomfortably. My son, Harold Jr., he visits once a month. He's very good with technology, works in IT. When was his last visit? Patricia thought for a moment. About 3 weeks ago. He set up my new security system. She pointed to the control panel on the wall. Detective Wallace and Officer Rodriguez looked at each other. Ms. Wilkins, does your son have access to your home when you're not here? Detective Wallace asked. Of course. He has a key and the security system sends alerts to both our phones. Patricia was getting more nervous. Why all these questions about Harold Jr.? 3 days later, Michael was working when he heard noise outside. Looking out his window, he saw Patricia being walked to her front door by Detective Wallace and Officer Rodriguez. She appeared to be crying. Later that afternoon, Officer Rodriguez knocked on Michael's door. "I thought you might want an update," he said when Michael answered. "We've found the source of the network attacks." Michael invited him in and they sat in the living room. It turns out Ms. Wilkins' son, Harold Wilkins Jr., was using his mother's house as a base for a complex hacking operation, Officer Rodriguez explained. He works for a cybersecurity company but was secretly stealing personal data from the entire neighborhood. Michael was shocked. And Patricia had no idea? None at all. He installed equipment during his monthly visits, disguised as helping her with her smart home setup. The system he installed gave him remote access to her house and used her internet connection to attack other networks in the area. "That explains my connection problems," Michael realized. Officer Rodriguez nodded. "He was targeting you more heavily once you moved in. We found messages on his devices where he told someone he was worried about, the new tech guy, who might detect his operation." "So what happens now?" Michael asked. Harold Jr. was arrested at his apartment in the city. As for Ms. Wilkins, she's not being charged with anything since she didn't know what was happening. But she's very upset. Her son was using her house and her reputation as the neighborhood watchdog as cover for his crimes. A week passed before Michael saw Patricia again. She was getting her mail, looking much older and sadder than before. On impulse he crossed the street. "Ms. Wilkins?" he called softly. She turned, her face turning red with embarrassment. "Mr. Chin. I need to say sorry." Michael shook his head. "You didn't know what your son was doing." "Not just for that," she admitted. "I've been terrible to you since you moved in. I was suspicious for no reason, called the police over a silly Wi-Fi name." Her voice trailed off. "The funny thing is," Michael said gently, "if you hadn't called the police that day, they might not have discovered what was really happening." Patricia managed a weak smile. Small comfort when your only child is facing charges for computer crimes. Michael hesitated, then said, "I'm having a few neighbors over for dinner on Friday. Nothing fancy, just a small get-together. You're welcome to join us." Patricia looked surprised. "You'd want me there? After everything?" "Everyone deserves a second chance," Michael replied. "Besides, I could use someone with your watching skills to help me set up a real neighborhood watch program." For the first time since he'd moved in, Michael saw Patricia smile genuinely. "I'd like that." 6 months later, Maple Street had changed. Under Michael's technical guidance and Patricia's organizing skills, they had created a real neighborhood watch program that focused on actual community safety rather than small rule enforcement. Patricia had stepped down as neighborhood association president, choosing instead to put her energy into community service. The neighbors who had once feared her clipboard and disapproving stare, now welcomed her help in neighborhood events. As for Michael, his home internet worked perfectly these days. His Wi-Fi name, however, still made visitors laugh. "Thank you, Karen_surveillance van." Patricia thought it was funny. Sometimes, she thought, the most unlikely events led to the most unexpected friendships. Her son had betrayed her trust and the entire neighborhood, using her without her knowing about his plans. But in exposing him, she had found something she hadn't realized she was missing since her divorce. A real connection with the community she had tried so hard to control. And it had all started with a Wi-Fi name and an unnecessary 911 call.